Okay, guys, oh, and I'm sorry, gals. Now that we got a female amongst the driving ranks at Stewart Raceway. Um, Anyways, I just wanted to do a quick video here on the Mega G Plus, since we're gonna start running this guy more regularly. And I guess the gist of this video is just to show you the newer folks, what you need to do to one of these cars to make them a fair runner in the next series and upcoming series that we might do using this car. So the first thing you want to do is, depending on what kind of race we're running, you want to take a look at the rules, obviously. And right now the rules are such that you can replace the stock rubber silicon tires with any aftermarket silicon tire, super tire, gel claws, whatever you want to run. That's a big addition and a big help to the car. Also take a look at the front tires, and make sure the axle's not bent, make sure everything's straight, the wheels are pressed on good. And the tires, in this case, if you look at these closely, they're pretty cracked and worn, so wouldn't hurt to put new ones on, or even some aftermarket tires on, even though the rules don't really allow different tire sizes. It's not that big a deal, so you could put on almost anything here that will work and stay on. The next thing you want to look at is probably gear mesh. If you take a look at this particular car, the pinion gear, the drive pinion, is pretty worn. Not horrible, but it's worn, and this one is not super smooth. It could be vastly improved. One of the other things you can do to improve this is using some sort of an abrasive toothpaste, like Arm & Hammer baking soda, whatever it's called, baking soda and peroxide, or any teeth whitening toothpaste actually does the job okay too. What I tend to use is actually Hapich chrome polish, which most of you car guys would know very well. That works really good. But the idea is to lap these gears in. So you put the compound all over the crown and the pinion, and then you run the car on either a 9-volt battery or a dyno or whatever you've got available, and just run it in for a number of minutes to get the gears smooth and meshing well. And that's kind of a last ditch effort. What you really want to do here is see if you have any other rear axle assemblies anywhere, and try different ones until you get the best track results, or the best dyno results, or in the case of not having those tools, you get the best sound out of the car. And feel, you can feel these things when you turn them. If you feel resistance anywhere along the rotation, that's a loss of horsepower. So you want to try to figure out how to work around that and get rid of that problem. You'll get the best performance out of the motor if this is real smooth and freewheeling. Okay, so aside from that, the next thing you want to do, another very critical thing, is to make sure that your pickup shoes have the right tension, equal tension. Actually, you can have a little more tension on the power rail side than the non-power rail side, but the idea is to have pretty equal tension on both sides, and there's tools to measure that. But a lot of guys can do it just fine by feel, just by touching the different pickup shoes. So that's a critical component. Too much tension, the car tends to sort of not sit down on the rails very well. And in this particular case, this car is pretty strong on the rails, and it it's pretty much stuck to the rails. But you'll find some that aren't, and you want to get that tension just right so you get the maximum rail contact, but also the car's not bouncing, or you want the front end to be active. In other words, every time it hits a bump, you want to see the shoes act, right? You want to have a little play in there. You want to get them to stay down on the rails, but move around compliant to the different surfaces and different joints of the track. Very important, very critical adjustment. After you get that sorted out, then the important thing is to get the shoes to where they ride on the rails, as flat as possible. So what you're trying to get to there is with a piece of track, and it can be a long piece, black piece, whatever piece of track you have. A lot of guys will use a tech block. In this case, for my tracks, you would use like a 13 thousandths tech block, and you want to see how the shoe profile reacts to that tech block. And what you're looking for, and you probably can't see really good in this video, but you're looking for a very, very flush, flat shoe to rail contact, meaning it's going front to back on the rail equally, on from start to finish. And that's another very critical performance adjustment. It's not very easy to do, but but if you take your time and do it, and look at the car sitting on the rails, it's difficult to do. Hard to tell if I'm getting this right, but what you're trying to do is get those shoes totally flat on top of each rail. And in this case, it's hard to see, I'm sure, but in this case, these are way, way off. And you can see that, by just looking at the tips of the shoes. It's called heel toe. In this case, the toes of the shoes are way above the rail. So it's basically doing far more heel contact than it is on the toe. So you want to try to get that, improved. The way that I do it is can't remember the name of this tool, but I think it's some kind of knitting tool, or I don't know, but it's it comes in very handy for this particular task, because you can slip it up under the shoe, get it pretty uniform, and then you can bend the shoe, right? You can bend the front, back. You can bend the heel here, and what you're trying to do is get the shoe. In this case, we knew that it was hitting the heel much harder than it was the toe. So what we're going to try to do is bring the toe down, and by just bending this a little bit. And sometimes you have to take the shoe off to do it, but you can, and then just kind of look at the profile difference, right, from what you saw on the test track to what you've just done. And in this case, we've not made that big of an adjustment, so we want to maybe increase that a little bit. And what you'll see as you bend these things is you'll see an improvement, or not an improvement in the rail. In this case, we really made it much more pronounced. So we want to go the opposite direction on that particular shoe. If you look at both of them, one of them is almost on the rail, the other one is way off. So what we do is we come back to that same bend area and reverse the bend. So you're trying to get a little more pronounced toe contact. And the idea being to get the shoe to lay flat as possible on the rail. In this case, it's not quite healing now, but it's very much down on the toe, which is good. So you just tweak it around until you get a mix of, you know, front and rear contact. And in this case, it looks like we probably achieved that, even though it's difficult to see with this type of camera work. But that's a very important adjustment that gets you, you know, lots of performance gain if you get it right. So we got that shoe. Probably, if you look at it, it's got a totally different angle than the left shoe here does, and it's, you know, again, hard to see in these films, but that's the objective, is to get both of these shoes making, you know, as good a contact with the rail as you possibly can. So you're trying to get maximum rail contact front to back. And you don't have to use that kind of tool. You can use almost any tool. You could use a duck bill or flat bill pair of pliers. You know, just whatever you're comfortable with and whatever works the best for you. That's what you're trying to get to. And as you can see, we still got work to do on this left shoe, passenger side shoe. It's not quite sitting down on the toe. So we want to do a little bit more tweaking here until we get a nice uniform contact with that rail all the way down the length of the shoe. That's about as good as it gets with a Mega G Plus, I should say. So that's, I wonder if I have another tool here that might illustrate this a little bit better. I'm not seeing it. Now, there are better devices for this particular task, but this tool can kind of show you, and I don't really want to push this on anybody, but you can see here, these are kind of overemphasized rails, but you can see that the shoes are hitting pretty flat on those rails. And that's what you're looking for, is you're looking front to back, making full contact, getting maximum voltage and current from the rail to the motor. That's what you're trying to do. Once you get that dialed in, you're pretty good. There's a lot of things that can be done down in this area here. As far as, maintaining 100% shoe contact throughout any kind of transition on the track. But the Mega G's, not really prone to problems in that area, but you can do things to mitigate that by just changing the bends on these lower parts of the shoes where they go into the motor brushes. That's basically going right directly into the motor brush right there. So anyways, that's a couple of tips on getting the Mega G dialed in. One of the things that you'll get to later on is on the current rules we have, the traction magnets are supposed to be in on the low downforce position, and I'll discuss that in another video. But that's another bit of tuning you can do on the Mega G Plus. If there's stickiness in the rules, like we're probably not going to do too much about high downforce versus low downforce, but it will become an issue as this class progresses. And you want to know how to install the traction magnets to get low downforce or high downforce, depending on what the car is. If it's got a really good motor and you want to get a little more speed out of it, you may go to the high downforce configuration. But if somebody's teching and checking the car for downforce, the high downforce position makes this car is illegal in the box stock version of this class. So I guess that's about all I've got to say for right now on the Mega G. There's not really a lot that you need to do. I mean, the key thing is to get the tires, both the size and the compound, to where the car works the best. So that's probably your starting, point on this car. And then the next thing is to get the gear mesh, really smooth, really effortless to rotate, no friction, no roughness detected anywhere. And then of course adjust the shoes to the proper positions to get maximum voltage and power transfer from the rails to the car's motor. And that's about it on the Mega G Plus. Again, you can leave the ground wire that comes with these things out of the box. You can leave that on, take it off. I take them off. I mean, the big reason that's there is really for RFI interference. These cars could and can interfere with indoor wireless television, other kinds of things because of their frequencies. So that's what that wire is for, to basically just keep the ground plane common between the two components. But it's not necessary in our racing. You can take it off. You can even use a soldering iron and get rid of some of the solder that's sitting on top of the motor. It helps bodies sit down a little bit flusher, a little bit lower. Okay, so yeah, other than making sure that you got a nice guide pin and it's not bent, not too worn out, everything else is pretty straightforward. The next video will show you how to get these shoes, a little more life out of shoes, and get them to work a little bit better by smoothing them out, getting rid of the grooves, or at least reducing the grooves, because you can run these things quite a while, but once they get really, the grooves really get deep and big, then you'll start running into rail contact issues. Okay, guys, I guess that's about it for now, and girls. And until the next one, I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.